Good morning. I know it's been a while since I had a movie to put out, or a video to put out. Things have been going okay. But what I'd like to do today is I would like to continue on with my Breech Bolt series. And today I brought perhaps my favorite rifle of all time, favorite model of rifle of all time. And that is the Winchester 94, Model 94. This is a post 64. Now you keep hearing about, well, what's pre 64, post 64, what's that have to do with anything? And what it has to do with is Mr. Browning's gun that was sent up through Winchester. In the 1930s, Winchester was bought out by a company called the Olin Company, which was a chemical factory, and this just became like a subsidiary of the chemical factory. Well, in the chemical company did really well. The gun company, Winchester, was not doing so well. It was run by the owner of the company named John Olin, and he kept things pretty much the same until after he retired in 1963. 1964, the company came out and decided that they wanted to decrease the costs that it was in the process that went into making the rifle, to make it more profitable for them. So one of the things that they did was there's a part inside, and we'll talk about it, the lifter, the loader, and when it used to be milled, and what they decided to do is make it out of stamped steel, and I'll show you the difference when we get to it. One other way that you can, and one of the other things that they did was they took the receiver. See how shiny that is? Well, that's not steel. That's a different alloy, steel alloy that they made. So instead of milling it out, you know, where they take one piece of steel and mill it out, this is actually cast, which means it's put inside of a mold, and they would do it. And it was, I'm trying to think, I've written down what it was called. It's called sintered steel, which is not exactly steel. I don't know. That was like the mystery metal that they made this out of. The problem was that they can't glue this alloy, and because, well, they're a chemical company, what they did was they came up with their own finish for this, and the finish looks nice and shiny. And anybody that's restores guns or has restored their 94 that's between 1964 and say 1981, I think is when they changed it back. You take this stuff off, you're screwed, because you can't glue it. There's a thin coating of metal underneath here that they use to adhere this stuff to, and if you take it off, then you're in trouble. So anyway, so that's a lesson there. Now, ways you can tell also that this is the difference between this and say a pre-64 is, see these screws. This right here, the screws right here. I'm having trouble telling the difference between the two. See, this is my my pre-64, and if you look here, there's two screws. This screw is for this, and this screw is for the loader inside. See how it's offset? Here it's up and down. On the pre-64, the loader has two screws that hold it in, whereas in the post-64 it's just one screw that goes all the way across that holds it in. I think it's a little bit easier. The other thing is that down here, this is your link. This is your link. On the pre-64s, there's a pin that goes in there, and then there's a little screw that holds that pin in. You don't see that on this because this is just one screw that goes all the way through. And that's one. Those are some quick ways to be able to tell whether you have a pre or a post 64. I think I've done all this, maybe not, but anyway, there's the screw that's holding that pin in. This is a junk gun that I got, and I redid it, but I did a video on that too. And this, oh no, this is a Marlin. Okay, one of the things that the Marlin company did, and eventually Winchester did the same thing, was, if you notice, if you fired a Winchester, and we'll talk about that, is it ejects from the top. You can't have a scope on top of the gun if it ejects from the top. So you have to put a scope on the side, and that way there you have so that the spent cartridges can come out. Well, Marlin was smarter than that in a way, and they made it a side eject, so that way there you can put that on top. Another way that you can tell that it's a Marlin over a Winchester. Winchester had some handles, some levers like this, but this is the Marlin lever, and this screw right here, the Winchester connects to the bolt. The lever connects to the bolt inside, and it's, well, I'll show you how it goes. But this one, the lever is connected right here, and some people say, and I have to believe that it's true, is it makes this a lot more sturdy, or at least it doesn't shake as much as but anyway, we're not here about the Marlin. I just happened to have that here. So anyway, this is your bolt for your 94. The difference between this and say some of the other guns is you have to take the action apart to get the bolt out. You can't. It's held in by the lever. There's a place for it up there, and it's held in by the hammer itself holds it in too. So in order to take it out, you have to take it apart. I have videos of these things being taken apart, so I'm not going to show it here. I'm going to take it apart, and I'll be back. All right, thank you. Okay, I'm back now, and I just did that. I didn't want to waste the time on the video of taking this apart, but we are going to put it together, and as we put it together, I'm going to show you what the different parts do. So like I said, we've got this apart. I've left the bolt in. I'm going to take out the bolt. It just slides out. One of the things on the Post 64 that I found, at least the ones that I've seen, the firing pin looks like it just falls out. This is the firing pin, and it's got different cutouts in it like that. And the reason for that cutout is because your firing pin actually isn't going to fall out on you. What we have is when the lever hooks up with the firing pin, with the bolt, there's a groove that this fits inside of, like that, and there's a pin that holds these two together so that when you push this, it slides it back and forth. And what happens is the firing pin is sitting in there, and the pin goes right in the middle there, and allows the firing pin only so much motion, and it holds it in place. Also on the bolt, you have, put both hands here so you don't shake too much. This is your extractor. That's the hook that hooks onto the end of the dummy cartridge that we have here, and it hooks up so that it pulls it out. Now, I don't know if you see that movement there. That's your ejector. So what happens is you push it in, it sticks like that, and when you pull it out, it causes it to spring off, and that's what causes the round to fly out the top, is the ejector. It's on a spring. Man, the light seems off today. You have the spring right there, and that's your ejector right there. So the bolt itself is pretty simple. I mean, those are the only parts of it that there are. You have this right here, and if you can see, that's it from rubbing up on the top of the hammer. and so that's as far as it'll go, where that notch is right there. So that the hammer helps to, well, it doesn't, I guess it doesn't really help hold the bolt inside, but it's there, and the bolt can't go past it. Now on the end of your firing pin, you can see the angles like this, and they're equal to the angles on here. So when you put it inside, you can see that the angles match up on your firing pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bolt back inside. Now, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put, only because it gets held in also. Where is it? Man, I hate when parts get lost, huh? Anybody that's watched my videos before knows that this is a very common occurrence where parts kind of move around on their own. It had fallen on the floor and I picked it up. There it is. This is your bolt block, or your bolt lock, and what this does is, you can see one side here and one side there. It fits up inside the receiver, and when you pull your handle back, it pushes up, and when it pushes up, it blocks the bolt from moving back. So I can show you here, maybe. Let me put that in. Okay, so there's your bolt, and when you push it, see how it comes up and it holds the bolt in place. So that's why it's called the bolt lock. So we'll put that in, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the lower tang. The lower tang is important to the 94 because, well, first of all, it's got your trigger, it's got your sear. There it is. Now the sear has things that stick up like that, and what they do is they hook onto the hammer, onto these notches. So when you pull the trigger, the hammer back, it gets stuck on the sear and it holds it back. So that when you pull the trigger, the sear goes down, and it causes the hammer to come flying forward, just like the sear on just about, I guess, any other gun. That's its job. Underneath, you can see. Let's see if I can get this. See the trigger? It doesn't go all the way back. One of the things that the 94 has as its safety is this little knob right here. This little knob, when you pull and you hold the leverage shut, it pushes in on that little knob, which causes that little piece of metal to go down so that your trigger will work the way it's supposed to. So that's your safety to keep you from pulling the trigger. This is your mainspring. The mainspring hooks into the back of your, once this is in place, it hooks into the back of your hammer and causes that to work the way it's supposed to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tang in. Okay, the tang's in. Okay, you can see the springs right there. It's holding the bolt lock in. So now I'm going to put the hammer in. This is the front part of the hammer. Now I said that the spring has to go here in this part underneath where it's worn. So what you have to do is push your spring back a little bit so that you can get it in. You line it up. Oop. Oh, let's see, that caused that to fall out. Okay, so getting the holes to line up in there. This screw not only holds the hammer in, but it also holds the lower tang on. So you have all this to line up in there so that you can hold it. And there we are. The hammer's not quite right. Okay. There we are, it's in. Okay. Parkinson's is not your friend when you're trying to do this stuff. Parkinson's is never your friend, actually. Oh, forget the Parkinson's. Last Sunday I ordered my M1. I ordered an M1, and they say it takes 2 to 4 weeks for it to be shipped. I ordered it from Royal Tiger. I know a lot of people have had problems with Royal Tiger, but I've never had a problem with Royal Tiger. And so I'm getting one that's in original shape. The research that I've done on it, it may not necessarily be a World War II M1. I guess we'll have to figure out what's going on. They got theirs from over in Africa somewhere, and I guess we'll have to find the tail of the gun and find out where it's been and what it's been up to. But I'm getting an M1, and who knows when it'll be here. But okay, so the trigger works, the safety works. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, this is the loader, well that's the different one. This is the stamped one. This is the milled one. You can see the difference. There, the weight is the difference, and this one was actually, they had a single piece of metal and they just removed the parts that aren't the loader, and then you have the loader. Whereas this was just started out as a sheet of metal, and they stamped it and made it into the loader. They both work. I know there's a lot of people that you know, the pre-64s are so much better, and I've heard a lot of things. You know, people are very opinionated about whether a pre-64 or post-64 better and so forth, but I don't know. I've got both, so I don't know. So this goes upside down like this here, because what this does is, when you have your rounds inside your magazine, and when you have your handle pulled up, it causes a round to be shifted inside the loader, so that when you pull the handle out, it causes it to come up like that. The bolt comes along, slams it, and brings it inside the chamber, so that when you put the handle back down again, you know, when you put it back down, it causes another round to come over and slide inside the loader, and that would, the process just goes on and on and on. But I'll show you here after I put it together how that works. So we're going to put the loader in. We're going to put the right loader in, and it's got a screw. Line up the holes. Okay. So now your loader's in. There's a spring in there on the loader, so that when you push when you pull your handle out, or your lever out, it springs the round up. So you can see the spring, and that's how that works. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the lever on, and like I said, this part right here has got to go up inside the bolt itself where that hole is. So before you do that, what you want to do is make sure that your firing pin is turned the right way, so that that pin will go right underneath it instead of right into it. You won't be able to get it back in. So I'm going to push this. It goes through. There's a slot in the loader. You push it through that slot. Then you push it down inside that hole. There, it's down inside the hole now in the bolt. This hooks up in the back. There's a slot for it, and it hooks up onto the bolt lock, because that's what's going to push the bolt lock up and down, is this here. So when it's in the down position, the bolt lock will be all the way up, and then when you open the lever, what happens then is it'll pull the bolt lock down so everything can happen. So there, everything is closed up. I'm going to take this. This is just the screw that goes in here. Line up the holes. And that screws down. Now that pin I was talking about that goes in, that holds the lever onto the bolt, it's a little pin right here. There's a hole for it right here, and you just push, and then you gotta fiddle with it a little bit to get the whole thing lined up again. Okay, there's a little bevel on the front here that helps you to push it through. Okay, that's in. I'm going to use a little punch. Make sure it's all the way down. And there's a little screw that goes on top to hold it in. Now, one thing I guess I showed you before when I was doing my disassembly videos was that on the other side of this pin in this screw, there's a little hole that you stick a punch through, just a little punch, and it pushes the pin out. There we go. And the last thing we're going to do is put the buttstock on. Buttstock, one screw. Oh man, this is a long one. Sorry about this being a long one. Okay, it works. Now, put your round, this is a dummy round, put it inside the magazine. Then you do that. And when you do that, I don't know if you can see. Let me move this out of the way. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, try this again. Okay, we're putting this inside the magazine, and then that might be okay. So then there you go. You can see where the round comes shoving up from the magazine and closes, and then shoots up when you're done. Yeah, that's working now. That round seems like it's rattling in there. I'm wondering if it's a true 30-30. There you go. So anyway, so that's it. So then the bolt comes through, shoves it. When the bolt comes back, it hits the hammer and cocks the hammer. You can see it cocks. It cocks the hammer, and then you get to go. All right. Well, anyway, that's the video. Thank you very much. I'm also got most of my parts in the mail for my Craig 96, and as we move along in that progress, I'll try to get some videos out about how that's being put together too. The Craig 96 looks like it's going to be a wonderful gun to have, and I got all the action. It's just everything else I need to buy. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll get back again soon. Thanks. Okay, this happens to me all the time. I make a video, and then I sit around and think, and I say, oh man, I didn't mention this, and I didn't mention that. I think these are things I did mention, but I kind of glossed over them, and I think they're kind of important. I mentioned that the Marlins had a side eject and I said, Winchester, well, Winchester never came up with a side eject. What they came up with was an angle eject, and that was in 1982. They came up with that. What that was instead of like for the top eject, where you have your extractor on the top and you have your kicker in the bottom, they tilted a little bit so it came out and it shot out to the side at an angle. And that way there you could put a scope on, even a side scope, without a whole bunch of problems. I had a side scope on mine, and the round sometimes got caught up underneath, and it wasn't good. 1982 was a big year because it was the first year that the USARCO was Winchester. It was owned by them, and that's the employees. The employees of Winchester bought the company, and it's the Repeating Arms Company, U.S. Repeating Arms Company. And the other thing they did was they got rid of that crappy metal stuff on the side, the alloy, and they went back to making a steel receiver again, and that was a big change too. So I think that covers everything so far. I think if I don't catch it, people catch me, and that's good. I'm glad. I hope people will continue to do that if I make a mistake. And other than that, I believe we've got everything covered. So, all right. Well, thank you again, and sorry about the long video. All right. Bye.